A chain of extraordinary events started late in the afternoon on Sunday, 18th of April, when 12 clubs announced their intention to form a breakaway Super League. The proposal was met with widespread condemnation by the media, fans, leagues, national associations and sporting federations, including UEFA.
UEFA and the footballing world stand united against the disgraceful, self-serving proposal we have seen in the last 24 hours from a select few clubs in Europe that are fueled purely by greed above all else.
After UEFA made their position clear, it was the turn of supporters and other club representatives to make their voices heard.
A sport is not a sport when the relation between the effort and the success, the effort and reward don't exist. So it's not a sport. So it's not a sport of the success is already guaranteed.
I would like to address the owners of some English clubs. Gentlemen, you made a huge mistake. Some will say it is greed, others disdain, arrogance, flippancy or complete ignorance of England's football culture. But actually it doesn't matter. What matters is that there is still time to change your mind.
Pressure continued to mount on the 12 clubs, particularly in England, where Chelsea fans gathered in large numbers outside Stamford Bridge. Shortly after 9 p.m. UK time, Manchester City became the first club to pull out of the plans for a European Super League, and they were soon joined by the other 5 English clubs. Atletico Madrid, Inter and AC Milan followed the next day. The Super League project was well and truly dead in the water.
Yeah, but what a week that was. Brian, let's go back to the beginning. What was your initial reaction on that Sunday night when you saw that news breaking about the Super League?
Well, it was a bit awkward for a start for me because I was doing a match on the radio and it was thrown at me as a question. As the match finished, I was a bit dizzy after watching was it Fulham anyway? Fulham and Arsenal, and Joe was sometimes in these parts threw the question at me about what I thought of it, and I was caught on the hop. But as things went on, I wasn't surprised at how that something had happened, that it occurred so suddenly without it being gradually breaking news. Surprised me. The arrogance of the clubs, the lack of planning. It was all so surprising that they didn't seem to have discussed it with people that might have influenced the decision to go ahead with it so briskly and to kind of state they were going to start as soon as they possibly could without discussing it with any of the managers, the coaches of the highest profile teams in the world, and without any of the players knowing anything about it or about the fans. It's not, clubs frequently do things that upset fans without telling them in advance. That's the nature of them. But as things have gone on since then, I think it was interesting looking at Ceferin there and how he handled it. I think he's handled it quite well. But the challenge now is for UEFA, FIFA and the individual leagues, in the case of the Premier League, the English FA, the Spanish League and the Spanish FA, and the Italian League obviously as well, how they handle the future. There's an opportunity now for them to change the rules, to establish rules and implement rules that a similar sort of thing can't happen again. I've no doubt that there will be another go at this, and that they will try to cure some of the problems that made it so despised this time, like ensuring that there's a better flow down of money to all the different leagues that will feel very detached by this, by the Super League happening, by also ensuring that there's some form of promotion and relegation, that maybe even the Dirty Dozen could be affected by some form of promotion and relegation. They've got to get a lot different than that. But I think the opportunity is there for the clubs, the leagues around Europe that would have been affected by, and every league will be affected by it to a degree, because there'll be a lot less income coming around. The money will be much more centralised towards the clubs in the Super League that happened. They've got to establish rules strongly now. It'll be hard to affect the ownership of these clubs, but they can affect the rules they work within their own associations, and establish the fact that they can't go out on their own again if they want to maintain being involved in the country's leagues.
Yeah, and Damien, you said there's an inevitability that something else is going to come down the line. But like Brian says, if they need to read the room better, what could that be? What form might that take in the future?
I think there's almost certainly something coming down the line. It amazes me the I want to say the stupidity behind it, but the lack of PR. I'm pretty sure these people have think tanks and focus groups, and surely they consulted some PR firm, but they just went out and did it, but they didn't seem to. But I believe with Project Big Picture that happened in October, another attempt by Manchester United and Liverpool to safeguard their status and to kind of kick the ladder out really for everyone else in the Premier League. They got knocked back then, and they've come back now in April with the European Super League. That's 2 battles we've won. I still believe the war is raging. I still believe that there's more going to come. They've lost this round, but I think, as Brian said,
but isn't there a big opportunity now, Damien, for the power has kind of moved a little bit, even if it's on a temporary basis, to the other 14 clubs within the Premier League, to UEFA to a degree.
So how do they use that for advantage then? What do they do? How do they use that power now that it's shifted slightly?
Well, the first thing is they've got to re-establish the power base within the Premier League, that it's not held. I mean, I've been reading stuff that, you know, the Super Six, as described by themselves, that their chairman and representative at the FA at the Premier League meetings used to meet up in advance of the meetings and go in themselves 5 minutes before the meetings and sit at the table looking at everyone else coming in and showing their power by already being there and almost dismissing any ideas that came from the other 14 that didn't suit them. I think that power is switched a little bit now towards the 14 in terms of establishing. And, you know, if the government are serious, the British government, for instance, are serious about giving them a bit of a dig out on this, they could help them to implement rules that ensure that they can't break away. I mean, certainly the FA as well.
It's not just the English teams, though. I
think there are rules there. To get any rule change through in the Premier League, you need a minimum of 14 clubs. You know, and I think it was interesting that Manchester City and Chelsea were the first 2 to pull out, and I can't help but think that Chelsea and
there were talks that one club was never really on board from the beginning, and they got maybe coerced into it slightly. I don't know who that might have been. You might have.
I think it might have been Man City. You know, I think that.
Or it could have been Chelsea.
Yeah, I think this power grab is by clubs that seem to believe that they can't keep up with the spending power of state-backed clubs or oil money. They're finding it very, very difficult. So I think this was
But the Spanish clubs are in it because they can't keep up with the power of the Premier League and the generation of significant income from the rights and the attraction of those rights to the broadcasters all around the world, that they haven't been able to stay with that. So they want to break that and get it for themselves.
And I think that they wanted to use this as they're hugely in debt, Barcelona. This was their ticket out of debt.
It's about money, isn't it?
Absolutely.
They need the money.
Their motivation was their ticket out of debt for the 2 Spanish clubs. Yeah. The Premier League clubs with the American owners and the clubs that are running like a business, Tottenham, Arsenal, United and Liverpool, they're run like a business. What goes out must comes in. And this was their way of safeguarding that.